Okay, a little after 6, we're going to call the meeting of the Charter Township of Bedford Planning Commission to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call when you're ready.
Stacy Greenwood.
Present.
Claudia Brown.
Here.
Barbara Jones.
Present.
Shirley Tuggle, present. Tony Walters. Kevin Vallison.
Here.
Mike Stab.
Here.
6 present equals a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of our October 22nd, 2024 agenda.
All motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the agenda? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mike Stab.
Yes.
Kevin Vallison.
Yes.
Shirley Tuggle. Barbara Jones.
Yes.
Claudia Brown.
Yes.
Stacy Greenwood.
Yes.
Affirmative 6, and the agenda is approved.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the September 24th, 2024 meeting minutes.
So move. Support.
Greenwood. Any discussion on those minutes? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Barbara Jones.
Yes.
Claudia Brown.
Yes.
Stacy Greenwood.
Yes.
Shirley Tuggle. Yes. Kevin Vallison.
Yes.
Mike Stab.
Yes.
6 affirmative, meeting minutes approved.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is going to be liaison report from Trustee Greenwood.
There were 3 items at the last board meeting. We approved the escrow fee for $12,000 via resolution. We also approved the licensing ordinance for recreational marijuana. We moved to strike the language regarding prohibition for outdoor grow, because it would be addressed in the zoning ordinance. And we moved forward with the solar energy systems ordinance amendments. And that's all I have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is going to be the building and zoning report from our zoning administrator, Cody. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Cody?
Not really much to add. Feel like it's just kind of slowing down, but good time because here is the consumer's application in entirety, 2,147 pages. It's gonna be a lot of fun here.
You seem very excited.
I know. Yeah. It's a good read so far.
Excellent. Anything else? Okay. All right. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is going to be public comment time. This comment time is on agenda items only. Is there any comment on the agenda only at this time? Open that at 6:07. And we'll close that at 6:07. All right, next is going to be discussion of our new business, update of the timeline for the new zoning ordinance, presentation / board action. So that has been sent off to the county, for their review. We'll get that back probably, I would assume, if they have their meeting, at the end of this month, sometime in the first week of November, which would put us on track for, a presentation to the board, either at their November meeting or their December meeting. We are kind of in limbo there because we have some marijuana applications that we'll have to get through before the new zoning ordinance can go into effect. We're still trying to flush some of that stuff out. We'll talk about that more here in just a second. But right now it looks like presentation probably in December, I would think. And then the board will have, the option to, set an effective date 8 days after publication of the new zoning ordinance. Any questions on the timeline and kind of where we're at from the team here as far as that goes? Okay.
Mike, Jen from Calhoun County did ask me if we had any sort of summary of the changes and amendments made. Should I just tell her? I mean, it's a whole new ordinance.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I would prefer not to have to put something
Yeah.
together. I'm sure you would agree. I mean, if they would like though, I mean, you and I can put our heads together and we can come up with something.
Okay.
If that's something that they've requested,
Okay.
yeah. That's kind of all I have on that. I just wanted everybody to know kind of where we were at in that process.
Right.
It probably won't be until I would think maybe the first of the year where it becomes effective.
Right.
As far as that goes. Next item is going to be updated timeline for the marijuana related applications to the planning commission. So that kind of ties into why we're having to wait on the zoning ordinance. So with the new zoning ordinance, we obviously have the prohibition on outdoor grows. They needed to be given a chance for, last expansion before the new zoning ordinance goes into effect. That's why the board had to amend the licensing agreement. In the licensing agreement, it's like a 60-day application period, if I remember correctly, and I think that I do. So we're kind of, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, we're gonna get a letter around to those folks and let them know of the potential changes and impacts to their business and give them the opportunity to get back before us before the new zoning ordinance goes into effect. A rough timeline of that, I think we've kind of agreed that we were going to use the 60-day application period for that. And that doesn't just have to do with if they get any more licenses, that, like a site amendment or, things of that nature, if it's large enough, would have to come back before the planning commission. So we're going to give them, 60 days to get that, and then that'll be sometime around mid-December. And then I would think that we would process those in January at our first meeting. And this is a very loose timeline, obviously. And then we would go from there. But the new zoning ordinance can't take effect because we can't process an application for an outdoor grow
Right.
with a zoning ordinance that doesn't allow for outdoor.
Right.
Steph, do you have anything to add?
I think you're correct in saying that. As soon as the new zoning ordinance goes into effect, the new zoning ordinance prohibits outdoor grow. So the whole idea is to put the operators on notice because we're increasing the number of licenses. So if they want more licenses, go ahead and get them. And just make sure that they go ahead and do that. And let them know that like, hey, we're not going to allow this. Look, non-conforming use protection. So if they want to build out their property to use it to the maximum extent that they can or they want, they'll at least have that opportunity to do so before use is prohibited.
And just to clarify, Seth, so they can, if they have potential expansion plans down the line, they can get that to us on a site plan that can come through review. And then it doesn't mean they have to start construction tomorrow. They would, they're afforded that last opportunity for what their future needs may
That's
be.
what I want to be able to do.
Okay.
As long as they get the licenses. Like I understand, they might not be able to get their site plans in, engineers are way backed up right now, so if they buy the license, and then if the zoning ordinance goes into effect, are they prohibited, from, amending their site plan to expand their outdoor grow? I want them to be able to do that. We have to look at that a little bit further.
Okay.
I think that's the intent
Okay.
right now.
The only concern I would have there is that if we don't allow it, we're operating with a zoning ordinance that doesn't allow it. That would be a difficult, we would have no standards to review their application. So.
Can you please remove your hand away from your mouth when you talk? I'm having a hard
Oh,
time.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Does the amended site plan, are they, so let's say they want to build three more giant pole barns. Are they married to those three pole barns? Like if they decide further down the line, if they only wanted the two, we can just scratch the one without.
Correct.
Okay.
My understanding, and Seth, I'll let you answer, but my understanding is, they need to show us everything they potentially want.
Yeah.
There will be nothing that could happen above and beyond that after the new zoning ordinance goes.
So
into
they should
effect.
err on the side of like dreaming big.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And that is one of the reasons why we're gonna, Cody is gonna have a letter drafted, and explain that process, line by line if necessary, so that we can get what we need, so that they can get processed and the new zoning ordinance can go into effect.
Yeah, that should be very comprehensive and clear cut for the people applying, especially for non-conforming.
Yeah.
As soon as that date goes through, they can't expand their footprint, so.
Yeah, I mean, and they've all been aware since February when we started talking about this. A lot of them came to the first meetings. They just know it kind of got kicked down the road waiting for the whole zoning ordinance, everything like that. So
Sure.
they should all be relatively prepared and have it in their minds still. I've talked to a few of them about it recently as well. Just getting them to light the fire under themselves and doing it.
Any other questions about kind of where we're at in that process?
No.
So the first part of next year will be very busy for us.
Yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is gonna be update of the application submitted for large scale solar farm. So the board did approve the escrow fee. We do have an application. It is right over there in front of Mr. Cody. It is, very extensive and very comprehensive. It's gonna take us a little bit of time to get through it. The process in talking, with the attorneys, and just kind of how this normally goes on a project this size. We are probably looking at, 45 to 60 days for, the attorney's office, any outside parties that we need to bring in, like an environmentalist to, look over the environmental study that was attached with the application. Time for us to review it and get our, questions, down on paper. And then I think we're gonna do, one meeting where the applicant is, here and able to, answer the questions and whatnot that we have. And make sure that we're ready to set for public hearing. Is there anything in that process, Seth, that is,
No, I mean, that's typical.
okay,
Okay, like getting a large application like that, they provided an escrow fee, I believe, right?
they did, yeah.
So any cost associated with this, that's not coming from your general fund, that's coming from the applicant, they're paying it. If it drops down a little bit, they have to replenish that. I think that was in the affidavit. I think they signed, did they sign that affidavit?
Well, I was not there when they dropped it off.
Okay.
Cody, I assume that they did.
Cody, did that escrow fee include the application or no?
The application fee, it did.
Okay.
Yep. So at first we originally told them no. We're like, no. It would probably cover it under this escrow fee. But then we were like, you know what? There's an application fee.
Yeah,
Right.
it's two separate things.
So,
You got
Okay.
your application fee and then you got the escrow.
And then the escrow, okay.
So we'll figure out about, who you want to contract with for the environmental. Usually it's an engineering firm.
Okay,
I don't know if McKenna is your planner or if they want to help you with the master plan.
so they only helped with the master plan on, that specifically was their contract. So, we can certainly reach out to them and see if they have any thoughts about who they, would use or recommend, or if they, if we need to have them part of this process. I don't necessarily feel like we need to do that, but,
I feel like it would be an environmental studies group that we would,
reach out
You're
to. So,
definitely gonna need to engineer field talk about environmental.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, like that's not me. Yeah, that you're gonna get an engineer on that.
Yeah.
Cause those are a lot of the questions with these applications are, related to that. It's
I
gonna be a
think
little different than-
McKenna is strictly just drafting the ordinance.
I'm sorry?
McKenna was, here to draft the ordinance. I don't think they were hired to do additional work
Okay,
for applications.
they were not.
okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little different than, your typical application that you get, so.
Sure.
Okay.
So in the coming weeks, I'll be sitting down with Cody and the attorney's office, and we'll kind of figure out the best way to kind of section this out. The environmental study is what, 1,600 pages?
1,487 or something like that. This whole thing, which is full, is just the environmental assessment.
They do have everything in the digital copy, and what copies they provided is broke down, individually, and a lot of the stuff has a summary report.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot to go through there, so we'll probably send that out for you guys to look at and get your questions, one chunk at a time. That way we don't get into the weeds on it too far. And once we're, ready and we think we're, available, we would have a meeting with the applicant coming in, Seth, before the public hearing, or not necessarily?
I just need to see the application.
Okay, and
Okay,
make
kind
a
of review it, see
determination
what the
there.
ordinance standards are and see, just see how it matches up. So it's kind of hard to say. Like, yeah,
Okay.
generally you want to maintain some contact with the applicant, so
Okay.
where we're at.
All right. And I would think, sometime January or February was what we were discussing, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's exciting stuff, guys. Any other questions on the application and like kind of where we are in that process? I mean, we're very early on. Cody and I are still trying to figure out how we're gonna get copies to everybody.
I was gonna say you're not gonna print out thousands of copies.
So they did a good job providing us with a lot of copies of things, other than the things like 60 pages and over. So they only gave us one environmental assessment, hard copy, like 3 emergency response plans, 3 noise studies, 3 safety operations maintenance management plans, 3 installation instructions and safety manuals, and 3 glare studies, and then 7 of everything else. But even the digital files, when only trying to load 2 of the attachments to an email, it says it's too big.
Yeah,
Depending on which single attachment I'm trying to load, it says it's too big, so we just gotta,
okay.
Did you provide a point person, or did they tell you who the attorney was?
Consumers?
First one, consumer.
Yes, Peter
Peter Wyckoff's
Wyckoff
our main point
is our
guy.
main point guy.
They do have a lawyer with them here somewhere.
And once we get going on this and we kind of get our footing underneath us and we've had a chance to review this, it is the intention of the township to post the entire application to the website. Yes?
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
I don't know how to do that with something like this, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll figure it out with the office staff. But that will be online, all 2,100 plus pages, for review. And Cody, actually, when I was talking to him the other day, had a good idea. If somebody, absolutely wanted to come in and look at a hard copy, maybe making some time available. A scheduling block if you wanted to look at, the hard copies that we have.
Just give me a call ahead. It's a little dense.
Well, we are gonna post every page of that document online. And any subsequent documents that we get, with questions and so on and so forth.
I can't think of an exemption that would apply, from.
Okay.
I think the whole thing.
Okay, all right, perfect. Any other questions on that as far as that goes?
No.
Okay. All right, and then that brings us to our last item there. In your packet is the solar ordinance that we are going to work off of for this application. It has the 4 text amendments that we did. The only thing that is missing is the adoption date, which is 8 days after the publication. I believe that is tomorrow, but we'll just fill that in right at the top when we get going on that. But that is the ordinance that we are going to work off of. Yes, Seth.
Like, does everyone generally understand like the preemption, like what that means?
If you want, I mean, that's so. I don't mind taking a minute to talk about that if you would like.
Okay, so generally what the legislature did was they came up with preemption legislation, which goes into effect November 29th. And, whether or not we want renewable energy, when I say that, like wind, solar, or battery, like that's not the question anymore. Okay, the state made that decision for us, whether we like it or not. Okay, and what that means is if a developer wants a project in your township, is gonna happen. The question is whether we review it or they go to the state. Okay, right now your zoning ordinance specifies, I think it says it's a special land use in the agricultural district zoning classification. Under the state citing, it's a permitted use in any zoning district classification, any zoning district. Okay, that's how it is in state site. So, we advocated against that. We weren't really given a seat at the table. This decommissioning, I don't like it through the state. It's salvage value, not actual value. I would never recommend a township goes with salvage value. We're not a recycling facility. And it doesn't go 100% for like several years. So, I mean, that's where it's at. We amended some of the language in the zoning ordinance to allow the PC to make some adjustments to certain standards. The idea behind that was to see if developers would come here to at least give you the opportunity to see if we wanted to review it. If you don't want to review it, they will go to the state. Out of all the applications that we process and are still processing, developers are willing to work with us. But if they don't like what they're going to hear, they're going to pull their application and go to the state. We'll work with you until we're not happy. There's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing anyone can do about that. It's not the best news. I don't like telling, the public board.
So that could be part of this process.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't even had a chance to review the application, and obviously they're talking about working with us now.
Yeah.
We get into that and we see things that don't line up with our standards and there's no room there. They could theoretically pull their application and go to the state.
They didn't even have to come to us. Like,
Right, correct. Right.
If they didn't want to, but yeah, what you said is correct.
Okay.
I feel like the escrow thing's pretty good safe.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other things like the state is trying to encourage them to go to get the local approval first. But like I know right now the state's offering like for townships that process applications, it's like I can't remember if it's 5,000 or 7,000 a megawatt that you would get basically if you was for every public purpose. So like that's something that they're trying to
entice with.
I think but that's a policy decision. That's the decision you guys get to make. When you review these applications, is it something you're willing to work with or not? Because they will go to the state 100%. And given that it's a utility, it's consumers, I don't know what's going to happen on November 20th. I don't know if all these developers are going to, file in the state. When I say developers, I'm not talking about like DT or consumers. It's all the out-of-state people, people from Colorado, Florida, New York. I mean, basically everywhere. I think DT and consumers are going to get to the front of the line because they're the largest utility companies in the state. So I think that's just my opinion, but I think they're going to go to the front of the line as far as processing. That's where that.
Is there like a saturation amount? Like if we have consumers come in, but somebody from out of state also wants to, because they're.
Right now, no. Okay, I know some townships we've made ordinances that limit the amount of renewable energy to like a certain percentage of the total like land area in the township.
Right.
And I've been asked if, is that going to be upheld? No, I don't think so. Okay, now I think the argument in front of the state is, we've already allowed X amount of renewable energy in our township. We think we did our part. We shouldn't have to do more, but we don't get to make that decision. The state's going to, figure out what they want to do with that. So, yeah, I know.
Yeah, the Public Act 233 is very loosely written, for a reason. And if I think about it before we get going, we'll make that part of the packet just so everyone can have it and read it. So you kind of can see what the difference is between, what we have in front of us to work with and what could be the potential so that, when you're reviewing the application, you can kind of, look for those, I guess, red flags, if you want to call them that. So. Anything else on that, Seth? I will say, I mean, I've been a part of a meeting with consumers twice now, with Cody and the attorney's office, and they seem like they're, would like to work with us. But until we review the application, there's really no way to know.
I'm really nervous with the states, how they're going to handle these. I mean, I got to teach on removal, and I didn't push the legislation. I just stayed up, me once in front of a whole bunch of people. So I don't know how the state's going to, receive your applications or how much, they're going to listen or hear. Okay. So there'll be a process if they go to the state. Hopefully, maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe they let us review it because that's what you want.
But we'll review it with the newly amended solar ordinance. That will be our guide. amongst other things. Any questions about that process or for Seth why he's here? No? Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is gonna be, public comment time. This can be on anything, that you would like. We'll open that at 6:28. Yes, sir, in the back?
Question.
If you could step up, if you could come up to the podium, please.
Let me come up to that podium. Let me get up. Old as I am. Okay, I can do that.
Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. You know, when you get old like me, it takes about an hour and a half to get up here.
Can we have your name also, sir?
Especially after days adventures. Okay, so I'm hearing all kinds of interesting things here about what you're saying. And I may be misconstruing, but it sounds like what you're talking about is eminent domain. That if the township and the people of the township say, F you, we don't want it, we're not gonna put up with it. And they just go to the state says, sure, take what you want. Take the land you want, buy it, just give them eminent domain and give them $1,000 an acre. Is that what you're saying?
It's actually a good question to answer, but it's your fault.
Yes, you.
Okay,
go-
I get this
go
question
ahead.
a lot.
Will
Okay.
you stop his time for a second, Claudia?
Sorry.
Will you stop his time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I get this question a lot. The first step that these solar, any renewable energy company has to do is land acquisition. Okay, that happens one of two ways. They
Right.
either purchase property or they lease it.
Mhm.
We don't even know that happens. We're not part of that process.
Right.
Okay, so the state can't actually condemn property under this new legislation. So the first thing they do is land acquisition. They get it, and then they put together their site plans, they engineer them however they want, and then they figure out what to do. Are they coming to the local unit, or are they gonna bypass us altogether and go to the state? I know developers right now don't want to work with townships. They are lobbying and land saying to go to the state. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, no one has to like with what I'm saying, but that's what I'm hearing. Okay, and I wouldn't say that if I didn't think there was some, pretty strong weight behind it.
I know how big government works. I've watched Marshall over there. I've watched a lot of other cities, townships, states. And what I found is it doesn't matter what the township wants, what the people wants, what the state wants, or what's the big brother wants. It's where the money flows, and whoever greases the wheel gets what they want. To be damned what the clients or the people of the township want or don't want. The question is, what is the township gonna do to stop this? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, no,
I mean, besides move out of the state to another country or something, I mean,
I get the
at what point
question.
what point does the township override the state as far as eminent domain, taking property and building whatever the frick you wanna
Yeah.
build in your backyard? I've got property over here that they could put solar panels on it. I mean, it's not a huge piece of
Right.
property, but they put solar panels. So if I eminent domain and say, hey, Steve, we like your property, it's ours now. I mean,
I
at
don't
what
think they
point
can just-
do I have the say?
If you don't give them a lease or sell them your property, they can't take it. Okay, and I know that there are people holding out on that. I know that happens. Okay, they're trying to, whatever, do their site and they're talking to the farmers. There's always a couple holdouts.
Mhm.
They're able to get these leasing agreements, as far as I know, 800 to 1,400 acres sometimes.
Mhm.
So if you have a really big property, I mean, yeah, people are leasing, I know that happens.
I know,
Yeah.
we had that happen about 3 years ago down in Southern Ohio. My family's got 1,500 acres approximately down there. And they tried to come in
Yep.
and put windmills, because we have some high hills and we have solar. And they wanted to take all of our land and give us like, $1,500 an acre. And it's like, and they were like, well, we'll just take it.
Right.
Well, they didn't.
Right.
But there's a reason they didn't, because it wasn't worth their life. That my family told them basically this is what's gonna happen. And it did. So my question is, at what point do we stand up as citizens, as community members of this community and say, no, we don't want your solar. We don't want your windmills. We don't want, you wanna build power, you build it wherever you wanna build it, we'll buy it from you, but we're not gonna tolerate it. So I'm just wondering why we're going through all the 2,000
Yeah, I know.
pages of information on, DEQ and,
Yeah, no, I
Why?
think like there's two ways that got addressed. One was there was a petition that went around to try to put the question of like this preemption legislation on the ballot for
Mhm.
like would have been a couple of months, a couple of
Mhm.
weeks. They didn't, whenever the ballot language got certified by the state, they needed to get, I think it was like 600 some thousand signatures by the end of May, and they didn't get the number of signatures. So the soonest that could go back on the ballot is in 2026.
Okay,
Okay, so that's a couple years, there's nothing I can do about that. It wouldn't shock me if there was a lawsuit that got brought against the state. I did hear of that happening.
Mhm.
Okay, so it wouldn't shock me if there was a challenge to it. But even if there's a challenge to it, the legislation, there's no timeout,
right.
you know what I mean? It's still gonna go into effect. So I'll know if there's a lawsuit and I'll be able to, update the township on that, 'cause I'm pretty sure there's gonna be.
Well, like I said, over in Marshall, they put lots and lots of solar panels up, and we know why they put them up. For the paint plant. This has been in the works for probably 10 years at least, so. That's why I was wondering if there's something shaking in the works in Bedford Township, because we're the biggest township around here. We have the most amount of agricultural around here, unless you go down to East Leroy, south of 94, and there's land down there. So I just wondered if that's what was going on. So,
For whatever reason, county has the most solar.
I will not be removed, trust me. Our agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Koch. Is there any other public comment?
Hello, Michael. There's a guy named Marvin Haymeyer. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of him before, but he's someone that has shown the world that yes, government can come in and take your property. Sometimes it does take a long process and things to do, but that the government will come in and do whatever the government wants to do. And that's the problem, because it's we don't have participation. That's the biggest issue with it. And because we don't have the participation, we have boards such as yourselves. I don't blame you all for most of what you guys have done. You don't truly understand the decisions that are going on. You don't understand the forces and the ways in which things are being done. I mean, we have some of our members that have been here for a long time that can't even admit that this board was actually run illegally. If we really wanted to push this issue in our township, this board was not following the Open Meetings Act all the way up until you weren't here. You weren't the attorney, Seth. But until 2017, we did not run this board properly. You all, Barb Jones, Mark Hires, when he was here running the show illegally, he was telling us, the audience, that we weren't here for them to hear what we want in the township. We were here simply to watch you do the work for the township. That's literally the words that were told to myself and many others as they came here. It says, right, we can go to the minutes book. Let's get it out after the meeting if we can and look. Because Barb Jones doesn't believe it for some reason, but there's no public comment time on our agenda or the minutes in this township for this board. That's how little this township has listened to the residents. It's so, like I said, I don't blame you all in any capacity for all of the things that you did that are nothing but the controls for centralized planners. That is not planners for us in our township and how we want to do anything. We didn't do anything really. You got to be creative. That's the things that we need in here is creativity. Not people that just sit here and say nothing month after month after month with no ideas. We need the creativity. But we also need to follow the laws. And we need attorneys that actually follow the law, not protect the board in any way possible, but do the right thing. Because I said, we have weak people. We have weak men and women in positions of leadership. Because there's so many times of the right things that y'all should have done, but you didn't know.
Thank you, Mr. Heikela. Was there any other public comment?
I don't know.
I'll say is, I appreciate the fact we have public comment. Thank you for that. At least we have that. So.
Seeing no other public comment, we'll close that at 6:38. Next item on the agenda is planning commission member time. Claudia, would you like to start?
I'm very disappointed in the state. I really am. I really am. I guess that's all for now. I'm just very disappointed in.
Shirley, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'll just echo what Claudia said. They don't have an opportunity for several more years for the public
Have a say.
to have a say.
Right, absolutely.
Barb, do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay, anything else? Okay. Kevin? Tony?
Sorry, I'm late. I don't know why I thought 6:30, but it was in my head as 6:30. So
No.
I apologize.
No trouble. Trustee Greenwood?
Yes, I was made aware of the petition. It had been circulating for some time, regarding the signatures that we needed before May. Are you aware of how many were I actually signed the petition, but are you aware of how many were actually received?
I think they needed like 629,000, and in April, I think I asked someone, they told me they were in the 200 some thousand range.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
It was extremely low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When will that expire, those 6 months or?
Yeah, so after May, they would have to do it again, but then the soonest it could get on is 2026. Yeah.
When we were at the NTA conference in Traverse City, I was the first person that requested the Calhoun County ballot to sign, which
Yes.
made me very disheartened. Very, very disheartened.
Calhoun County was interested in the conference regarding especially solar, and not wanting the state to supersede local authority on that. But, you know, as far as the township saying, what can we do? What can we do? It's bigger than that. It's statewide. We have to let people know at the state level, we don't want this.
Right.
And that's what the petitions were for. And unfortunately, we came drastically short. It's unfortunate, but that's all I have.
Okay. I guess I would just like to respond to some of the comments that we heard tonight, about, you know, participation and public comment. This group up here, I don't think any of us were really involved in the township in any way at that time. So none of us are able to speak. Well, that's true, you were. Speak to how those meetings either were or weren't run. There's no video of them at all, you know, or anything like that. As far as listening to the residents, we had 2 public comment times on the agenda. We've always had 2 public comment times on the agenda, and we will always have.
You don't need it.
Mr. Heikela, this is my time. Please. Thank you.
Yeah. Do your dirty, man.
Thank you.
What a BS life.
Mr. Heikela, that is your first warning.
Thank you. Thank you.
We will always have 2 public comment times, giving the residents the ability to say whatever they would like to on it. Mr. Heikela, that is your second warning.
And you're welcome again.
As long as I'm involved, that will be how it goes. As far as participation goes, we post the videos online, we post the agendas, we post the material well in advance. We can't force people to come down here. With that said, I'll move to adjourn the meeting at 6:42.